Hello, Monetization Nation. Podcasts are becoming increasingly popular. 37% of the U.S. population, 104 million people, listen to podcasts at least every month. Source podcasthosting.org. That's millions of people we can reach every month. Jeff Mendelson is the host of the One Big Tip podcast. In today's episode, Jeff and I will discuss the benefits of running a podcast, along with tips for working with virtual assistants and communicating value in pricing. Tectonic shifts are constantly transforming the earth and business, causing destruction and huge growth opportunities. I'm Nathan William, the host of Monetization Nation, where we learn how to leverage business tectonic shifts to transform monetization. Jeff also runs a full-service digital marketing agency where he works with developing comprehensive digital marketing campaigns for startups to established businesses. He focuses on lead generation and ROI-based initiatives. Jeff is based in Miami, Florida, but works worldwide. He helps entrepreneurs conceptualize, develop, and then execute all-encompassing digital marketing strategies, sales funnels, paid campaigns, and getting the right people and disciplines in place. With over 15 years of continuous digital marketing experience in all formats, Jeff is a wealth of information of what works and what doesn't in the digital marketing space. Welcome to the show, Jeff.
Nathan, thank you so much for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Hey, could you start off by telling us something that you're super passionate about?
Something that I'm super passionate about. Geez, you had to start with that one, huh? I launched my podcast again last year, right before COVID in December 2019. And, I think it was Steve Larson that basically says, just do whatever you want in terms of, of trying to level up and all that, but just publish for a year and then you'll see the change and how it'll change you. And that's what I've been doing. And it's just been taking me in all kinds of great directions, all kinds of new revelations. I guess the biggest thing is that I'm just so mad I didn't do this like 5 or 10 years ago, right? Yeah. That I was just like, why do I need a podcast? Why do I need this? Why do I need that? And it's like, dude, like now I'm all about it. And I'm ready to kill it and really help other people to do it as well.
Yeah, so you did that challenge that Russell initially made, that Steve took that challenge and it transformed Steve's life. So I'm in the middle of that challenge right now. I am doing my daily show for a year. And
oh, wow.
And so tell me about some of the benefits that publishing every day for a year caused in your life.
There is no better networking tool, COVID or not COVID, in podcasting, right? Yeah. Because think about it. Now with all these extra communication tools that we have, that we can Zoom together, that we can Microsoft Teams together, or we could just WhatsApp together, whatever it is, right? The world is so small. I mean, I got interviewed by a British guy located in Doha, Qatar, right? Of all places. And it was a great interview. Right. And it was just a great situation. And I just keep on going back to how would I ever have met these people without it? Right. It's like, I'm an introvert already as it is. I'm a wallflower at conventions. I'm, I'm not a bragging type of guy. Right. And also for me, just to do a podcast by myself, it's like, please shoot me now. Right. It's like there's nothing harder. Right. But once I get in front of, speaking with somebody, we can talk about this all day. Yeah. And I think that's really the biggest benefit is, the way that you can, establish and control the conversation that you want to have with people. And also it's a great non-pressure invitation to speak with really interesting people who maybe would not have readily spoken with you otherwise, right? If you go up to it, you see them you recognize them at a shopping mall, and it's like, hey, I want to talk to you. Yeah, you ain't got time for that, right? But if you go and, invite them onto the show and talk about something that you have a mutual interest about, all of a sudden it becomes this really great conversation.
And the reason why they're willing to come on the show is because you're providing them value, because they're getting exposure to your audience. It's a good reciprocity. Okay, go ahead. Give your example.
It's a great reciprocity. And I think that, what I was going to say is, just take a look at my background, right? It's like, I don't allude to it. I don't talk about it at all. But anyone who knows what a lightsaber is, is going to nerd out with me about Star Wars for the next 15 minutes, simply because it's like, dude, where'd you get that? How it looks so real. Does it work? Like all that stuff. Right. And it's just a great connection tool, right? It's just a great way to, to connect with people. And, being a guest and also hosting people, it's like you have a direct connection to the top, right? You interview a CEO of the company, you bypassed all the gatekeepers. You bypassed all the VPs or directors or whoever it is. You talk to the source of the information. Yeah. And now you're connected. That person knows you on a first name basis. And that for me is like mind blown.
Yeah, I love it. All right. Let's talk about virtual assistants for a minute. What tips and secrets do you have for us about effectively working with virtual assistants? And this becomes more and more important as we work remotely and run our remote businesses.
I love this topic because I've been working with virtual people for pretty much the length of my career. And what's interesting about it is that, there are a couple of popular movies where American guy flies to India, doesn't fit into the culture over there, needs to build up a big thing. It is not, it is like that, but it's also not like that. And I think that for people like us that want to hire someone remote, right? First of all, it's a little bit of a mindset shift. So the way I describe it is this, and it's really quite simple. I don't care whether you're across the street or halfway around the world, you are remote to me, right? At the end of the day, you are a 4-inch square on my screen, and that's it, right? That's all, that's all I have to, that I have to connect with you. What happens is that when you lose that ability to have coffee with somebody, sit down and break bread with them, you need to be super clear and over communicate, right? You just need to make sure that whatever it is going on in your head, whatever your wants and desires and your aesthetic and your, the chemistry that you need to work with somebody, it has got to be on point, and you have to be able to communicate it. And that does not matter whether you're working with someone in Argentina, in the Ukraine, in India, Philippines, doesn't matter. You have to be able to communicate that. Then once you figured out who the indicated person is, you need to make sure that you're giving them the type of work that is both interesting to them and that, of course, they can do and that they can succeed at. I think, and I'm oversimplifying this a little bit, but I think the last thing is that, these people are not going to be working, the same 10 to 6, Eastern time hours that you are, right? So, someone in India, they're 10 hours ahead of me, right? So I have to make sure that I get in all of my requests before I shut down for the evening. And my requests, or whatever it is that I'm giving them, needs to be clear enough that they can work independently, because they are going to be doing this when it's 2-3 in the morning, my time, right? So the work that I get back the next day needs to be, it needs to be on point. I take full responsibility when my VAs don't perform the way they're supposed to. I think it's 80 to 90% on me for not training them correctly. If after training them correctly, they still don't get it, yes, that's a problem, right? But there are many ways to do that. You can record yourself with Loom or with ScreenFlow, just whatever it is you were doing and you want to pass off to them, record it, annotate it, put it out there, make it, make sure that they can get the, the gist of what it is that you're trying to do. Make them write the standard operating procedure for, for the task that you're asking them to do. So we talked a little bit about podcasts, right? So, as well as anybody, one episode requires a whole bunch of different steps that needs to happen. Some of those you're going to do, some of those you're going to pass off to your virtual assistant, right? And you need to make sure that they understand not only the why are we doing this, but the how do you get it done? And once you have that in place and you have that structure set up, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. I mean, my podcast episodes, I think on my task management program, I use Teamwork. I think it's like 25 to 30 steps that somebody's hands touches, each episode, between the social media quote cards, between the blog posts, between the posting it, putting it on Buzzsprout, all of that stuff needs to get done and needs to get cross-checked. So it's real important that you communicate, and if not over communicate so that they know exactly what to do and how to do it and how to capture any anomaly that may happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. I've been working in India for more than 20 years with team members there, and I love it. It's so nice to be able to leave for the day and they work on it for the night, and we usually have overlap for an hour or two in the morning, and it's very effective. I love the work ethic. I find that I can keep people longer, longevity of employees. There's a lot of benefits to running those remote teams. Okay, talk to me about the greatest home run you've hit in your career.
The one I'm most proud of is when I closed a $250,000 deal on an airplane. So I'll give you on an airplane. So I was working, this is the 90s now. All right. So just let's set the, let's set the stage a little bit. I'm dating myself here too. So I was on an airplane that had those phones that were in the back of the seat, before we had TVs in the back seat, we had an actual phone. So what happened? I was working for a company that provided software that airlines use to communicate, to do reservations and things like that. We were selling to Aeromexico and Mexicana Airlines. I was based in Mexico City at the time. And what happened was I was instrumental in putting together a deal for the, for the two airlines because they were in a partnership. Right before takeoff, I got a beep, right? Remember beepers, right? Yep. So I get a beep saying, you got to call me, you got to call me urgently, right? And like the plane's lining up to take off. So I'm like, dude, all right, I got to take this. Slice the credit card, pick up the phone, calling them up. And apparently there was one critical, there was one critical thing that they didn't, that they didn't understand. It was about to tank the deal. And for the next 45 minutes that it took me to, on this flight, I'm convincing them out of it, telling them everything's going to be all right. And we're going to make sure everything happens. And they were like, okay, yeah, it's great. We'll have the contract signed today. So I'm like, okay, great. Thank you very much. We're coming in for a landing. I hung up the phone, the whole plane erupted in applause, simply because everyone heard me close this deal on the plane. And I was like, yes. And that was actually my moment when I realized I did not want to be a programmer anymore. I did not want to be the technician, just fingers on keyboard doing things. I wanted to be out there making stuff happen. Yeah. And that was the pivotal moment for me where I realized that my career changed into just completely.
I love it. Tell me about the biggest mistake or failure you've had in your career, and what did you learn from it?
Okay. All right. That's interesting. The biggest mistake, I would say that the biggest mistake, that I've made numerous times, and I still sometimes make it a little bit, is on pricing. Right now, stay with me for a minute on this. When you price something out, basically what you're trying to do is, you're trying to deliver a product that delivers more value to the person that you're selling to in comparison to the amount of money that they're going to pay you, right? So say, for example, you build them one sales funnel that's going to guarantee to make them $1 million. Would you accept, like $500 for building that funnel? Right? It's like, the numbers just aren't there, right? It's like, wait a second, I just built something for you that's going to categorically change your life. And then you underprice it to the point where they think that it has no value, right? Or they think that it's not something that, not something that will get them to that mark. And I've made that mistake maybe about 5 or 6 times where I realized that that I undervalued something. And of course, that part of that comes with inexperience, right? Where you're all of a sudden you realize like, I just really undercharged this thing because I allocated, 20 hours for the work and I ended up putting in 100 to it. That's bad. But then again, I'm a businessman of my word. If I tell you it's going to be a certain way, I will break my head until I get it done. Right. On the flip side of that, when you overcharge someone, right, that can have the exact same effect. They'll just be like, well, yeah, you're too expensive and I can't, and I can't deal with it. And what happens in those cases is that it really teaches you to sort of hone in on first of all, what am I worth? Like how much can I charge for a particular product? But also it really makes you think like maybe I didn't sell the value well enough. Right. And that I think is a whole, just a whole big discussion in and of itself that, and it's a skill that needs to be learned. so that not only that you're, because there is competition, right? It's like, I'm not necessarily scared of competition. I mean, especially in web development or in paid ads or in, any kind of digital agency stuff, there's a million guys like me, just in the Miami, Fort Lauderdale area, right? And then compared all around the world, like, we're all basically doing the same thing. At the end of the day, someone is going to either love to work with me or they're just going to be, I don't like this guy. For some reason, they don't like my voice. They don't like my face. I'm toxic, right? That's fine. Move on, right? But I need to make sure that I am delivering the most amount of value for the prices that I'm charging. And my biggest mistakes are when I lose those deals based on price. That for me is I just feel the dumbest person ever when I lose a deal based on that factor alone.
Yep. Okay. So biggest mistake are pricing mistakes. And to restate, it sounds like one of the biggest pricing mistakes is losing the deal because we didn't effectively communicate value. We didn't sell based upon value. Okay. All right. Talk to me about your number one top monetization secret.
Number one monetization secret. So the best way to describe this, I would say, is and this is something I see a lot when I still get a lot of calls, even though I don't do this so much anymore. I don't really build websites for businesses anymore because at the end of the day, what they're asking for is a brochure, right? Which is no different than a piece of paper folded 3 times that you hand out at a convention.
Yep.
When what they really need is a sales funnel or a lead generation funnel, right? And when you put together a plan, for a business, you really have to communicate that your website is effectively your store. It's what people see. It's no different than when you're walking through a shopping mall and you see, like a sign over there and you walk in. And ideally, when you walk in, someone should be walking out, with a bag because they actually bought something. I view websites and web presences the exact same way. Now, the big difference is you need to be able to collect that lead as quick as possible. So my biggest monetization secret would be to sharpen up your call to action to make sure that you are collecting and nurturing that lead as quickly as possible. Now, the best ways to do that is to create a landing page that does not have too much text on it or too much distractions going on, and running paid ads to it. Because if you try to do it organically, or you think that, people are just going to gravitate towards this and they're going to love to give me, their name and email address because I'm super awesome, it really doesn't work like that. You really need some kind of hook to bring them in. And you need to make some kind of offer. So it could be a lead magnet, so a free ebook, a case study, or even to schedule a call. But you have to be able to communicate that very clearly so that you can get that information as quickly as possible from from the person that's looking at your website. So I would say that in order to do that, you need to learn the art of making an offer, making it as concise as possible, so that you can then nurture that lead later on into a medium or high ticket item that you're going to sell them eventually.
I love it. So make a great offer, have a lead magnet of some type that you give away, and then capture the lead and nurture the lead until until we built our credibility and the person is ready to make the purchase.
Exactly. Because, if you go too high, like if you try to sell a high ticket item and you don't have that credibility and you don't have that authority to say, well, this is why I deserve, for you to put, $5,000 on a credit card right now, it's not gonna work very well. So it's real important to nurture that lead so that people understand that whoever it is that, that if they're dealing with you, they know exactly that, okay, this is how it's gonna, this is how it's gonna work. This is the value that they're gonna give me, and they're gonna support me along the journey. All of that. You need to make sure that your offer is sound.
Thank you so much, Jeff, for sharing your stories and knowledge with us today. Here's some of my key takeaways from this episode. Number 1, we can reach millions of people with podcasts. Number 2, podcast guests are a great way to network. Number 3, podcasts are also a great way to have conversations with people that we may not have been able to otherwise. We can interview and get to know CEOs instead of VPs or directors. Number 4, when working with VAs, we need to over-communicate, especially when there's a big time difference. Number 5, we can use tools to help us communicate effectively, as well as having standard operating procedures in place. Number 6, underpricing can make our product or service seem like it has no value. Overpricing can scare away potential customers. We should try to find a happy medium. Number 7, with our pricing, we need to make sure we are accurately communicating our value. If you enjoyed this interview and want to learn more about Jeff or connect with him, you can find him on LinkedIn or visit his website, jeffmendelson.com, or his podcast, onebigtip.com. And there's links to those websites in the blog post for this episode at monetizationnation.com. Do you want to be a better digital monetizer? Then please follow these channels to receive free digital monetization content. Number 1, you can subscribe to the free Monetization e-magazine at monetizationnation.com. Number 2, you can subscribe to the Monetization Nation podcast or YouTube channel. And number 3, please follow Monetization Nation on Instagram and Twitter. How could a podcast help your business? Please join our private Monetization Nation Facebook group and share your insights with other digital monetizers. Thanks for joining me for today's episode. I wish you success in growing your podcast. Do you want to become a better digital monetizer? To receive great monetization stories and secrets, please go to monetizationnation.com and join free. And if you liked today's episode, please subscribe to the show and share it.